All right, everybody, this is the Western Rookie Podcast. I'm your host, Dan Johnson, and if this is your first episode, man, I really appreciate it. Welcome, welcome. Today's guest, Mr. Aaron Berg. Aaron, how we doing, man?
All right, we're doing great. It's
Doing good.
cool to be on here with you, Dan.
I appreciate your time today, man. Lately, I've been, across all the podcasts that I host, I've been trying to just dig deep into the average Joe type conversations. I mean, I feel like so often you get some big giant name in there who has different resources, who has I consider what I have a full-time job, but let's be honest, dude, it's not a real job compared to the factory dude or the cubicle guy or the guy who's laying concrete every day. It's not a real job compared to that. I've just kind of set my life up to, I don't know, have a little more fun. I don't know. I probably don't make as much money as those guys, but I wanted to get into these conversations that I'm about to have with you because I feel they're so realistic. They're more relatable than having some guy who gets to spend 30 days out of his year in a mountain or in the woods somewhere chasing an animal. So thank you for your time, man. What do you do for a living?
I'm in sales. So right now I'm doing roofing sales.
Mm-hmm.
So do that, and then I do aerial inspections with my drone, and then also do thermal recovery in the fall.
Oh, so you have a little business where you will, some guys hey, dude, I just gut shot a giant. Can you help me find him? Type of deal.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So
All right.
that's a lot of fun in the fall doing that.
Yeah. Get you outside.
Yeah.
How
It gets me outside all night long, and my wife loves it.
Yeah, your wife loves it. Out of curiosity, man, how much money do you make a year running a drone and recovering deer for people?
Not as much as you would think.
Okay.
It costs so much to get into it because the actual good drones cost so much. Right now I'm running probably a $15,000 unit.
Holy shit.
So you got to spend a little bit. So the actual true profit isn't all that high, but you can make 30-ish a year.
30 grand?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I mean, I think
don't go buy one, Dan.
No, I'm just, what I'm getting at is $30K a year. I mean, that's a big investment for a $15,000 drone, and then 30K return on investment in a year. Man, my wife would be, if I provided another 30 grand to the family every year because I was gone at night, I don't think my wife would give a shit. She'd be like, oh, dude, yeah, you want to be gone all night and bring in that kind of, that additional income? Okay, go for it. Go for it. But how many deer recoveries do you go on every year?
All depends on the year. There's some days you get none. The next day you've got 7 or 8 people that are calling or texting you.
Mm-hmm.
Then you're gone all night and recharging batteries at a truck stop or a gas station, trying to keep the drone in the air all afternoon.
Yeah. Is there a higher percentage recovery rate for drones versus dogs?
I would say, yeah. The only time that the drone is really an issue is if you're in conifers. If you're in a cedar swamp and everything's bedded under where you can't find a thermal image, then the drones are basically useless. But outside of that, I mean, you find every squirrel and every quail and every pheasant and every deer.
That's badass, dude. What have you learned from a how just animal standpoint? What have you learned about animals since you started running this drone looking for deer?
I think the biggest thing that I've learned is that the where you hunt is very important. Flying a drone on one of my spots last year where I had, good bucks every single day, multiple times a day running through this pinch point. And I hit one bad last year and flew the drone up on that. And there were 5 deer in the 100 acres that I was hunting on. It just happened that every single one of those 5 deer was walking past that trail camera every day.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, there actually aren't very many here.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
you're saying
interesting how they work through the landscape.
Okay. And you're saying that at least where you hunt, there's less deer per acre or whatever than what you initially thought.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that the place was filthy with them until I
Yeah.
flew the drone on it, and it's like, "Oh, I guess I have a good spot."
Yeah. Okay. All right. So very interesting. Very interesting. I'd love to find out a little more information about some of the other stuff that you see. Like, what's the craziest thing you've ever witnessed when you've been looking for, like, have you ever seen any hillbillies in the like hillbillies in the woods cooking meth or something like that? No.
No,
Okay.
no, sadly, nothing crazy like that.
Oh,
You
okay.
see some cool critters running around. Saw Fisher last year. We followed him around with the drone for a while, which is neat to see.
Oh, that's
We don't have
crazy.
many of those up by me.
Yeah, awesome, awesome. All right. Well, this is the Western Rookie Podcast, and so we're going to talk a little bit about some of your Western adventures. But before we do, I want to send a huge shout out to the partners of the Western Rookie Podcast. First, we're going to talk a little bit about Montana Decoy. Montana Decoy is a new partner to the Western Rookie Podcast, and whether you're looking to get inside the quote unquote kill zone or the bubble of an antelope, a whitetail, an elk, mule deer, Montana Decoy has a decoy for you. They're lightweight, they're packable, very packable. You can crumple them down into, the size of a softball if you wanted to. And then you pop them up real quick and you make your stock and you're good to go. So go check out montanadecoy.com. Next on the list is Wasp Archery, wasparchery.com. You can go check out their full lineup of mechanical and fixed blade broadheads. I've been shooting Wasp broadheads now for, dude, really close to 20 years. I can remember taking maybe a season off a long time ago to try a new head, and then I just kept coming back to Wasp. Most of their heads are still manufactured in the United States. Go check out wasparchery.com. I do have a discount code NFC20 for 20% off. And go get them. Go get them. Go pick them up. All right. What is your Western hunting experience so far?
So far I've done 2 elk hunts out west. So I did a Montana hunt when I was in my early 20s that I
Mhm.
probably couldn't afford then and shouldn't have done in the first place. And then I took about a decade off of that, and then went to Utah last year on an elk hunt. And then the better part of a decade now, we've been going out to Nebraska every year hunting, sometimes mule deer if we get a tag for them, otherwise whitetails.
Yeah. What? How many years have you hunted mule deer in Nebraska?
So I've had tags that allowed for mule deer for 4 years,
Okay.
but I've shot 2 mule deer out there.
Okay. And this is obviously Western Nebraska where mule deer live, correct?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. I want to get into the elk here in a little bit, but for me, every time I hunted mule deer in Nebraska, it was difficult. I mean, it was difficult to locate them. Every time I was out there, it was extremely dry. So, and I'm not sure, maybe I was looking in the wrong spots, but the water was always on private land. And so private land, if you had the water, then you had the animals. And so a lot of the public was heavily grazed and no real water other than maybe some cattle tanks that were on it. And maybe they were on, maybe they were off, maybe the cattle were there, maybe they weren't. If the cattle weren't there, then they shut them off and then the wildlife would go away. So talk to me a little bit about your mule deer experience in Western Nebraska.
Yeah, I mean, when mule deer were the first few years that I went out there, so, I mean, we had no idea what we were doing in the first
Right.
place, and so, I mean, our strategy the first year was just put on miles, just walk and
Yeah.
look and glass and, get up high wherever you could, um, and I think it was, like, the 3rd or 4th day that I was there on my first trip, I actually ran into another group of guys from Wisconsin,
Okay.
and I was chatting with them. They had both shot deer earlier in the week, and they had actually turned me on to checking out these little like plum thickets. I don't know if you're familiar with that brush out there in the western Nebraska, um, but it was nothing but grass forever, and then you get these little thickets of 8 to 10 foot tall brush in these corners on the
Yeah.
northwestern slopes. So what we ended up doing is, just looking at Google Maps. At that point, I didn't even have OnX on my phone. We
Hmm.
were using the Avenza maps for the
Yep.
areas we were in, and we were just locating all these little thickets and essentially just trying to scent bump each one. You'd get within 100 or 150 yards and just walk downwind of each one and try and push deer out. That actually worked really, really well for
Was
us.
that with a rifle or with archery equipment?
That was with a rifle.
Rifle. Okay. All right.
Mhm.
All right. And
Oh,
so when you bumped them, did they just rock it out of there, or did they just kind of stand up and catch your scent and then kind of mosey off?
yeah, so they would pop out and generally they'd go 10 or 15 yards and stop and look and try and figure out what was going on.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I I don't know if it was a quote unquote plum thicket because I don't know the vegetation, but when I was in Nebraska, the first year I ever went to Nebraska looking for mule deer and antelope, I had both tags that year. I Everything was in those little thickets that were in all of the drainages where like thorn bushes and maybe these plum thickets, and that's where everything was bedded, except for obviously the antelope. They weren't there every single every day, but if there was any type of cover, any trees, any bush, there was deer in that, in or
yep,
around that, as close or deep as into it as possible. So
yeah, and that's exactly what we saw out there too. It's just if you had cover, there were does bedded in there.
yeah,
And Nebraska's rifle season, I mean, it's the second week of November. So I mean,
yeah,
it is a rut hunt in every way, shape, and form. So like
yeah,
if you bump enough spots with does, you're going to find bucks eventually.
yeah. And that's kind of that's a crazy method too, where it's just like, dude, here's what we're gonna go do. We're just gonna cause a shit ton of chaos. We're gonna let them know we're here. We're gonna try to get them to stand up, and we're gonna shoot them from you know how far were the shots usually?
Uh, I mean, I shot the first one was 65 yards.
Oh, okay, okay,
Um, and the second one was a little over 300 that I shot
okay,
out there. But I mean, I'm going out to the flat plains, so I mean, I had a 13-pound rifle with me with a giant scope, and I'm trying to offhand shoot at 65 yards. It's like, oh god, I might have planned a little wrong for how we ended
right,
up doing things.
right, okay. And is that still a hunt you guys do today?
Yep, yep, we go every year.
Rifle?
We do a rifle. Last year, I actually drew an archery tag out there.
Mm-hmm.
So I went out 5 days early, to get 5 good days of archery hunting.
Yeah,
Reason being is after we had shot our bucks a couple years ago, we just did some extra scouting in the area, looking
yeah,
around, and we found this little pinch point that, I mean, it looked like a cattle trail going through this area, but there was no cattle grazed.
yeah,
It was like there's one tree in the corner of this little swamp that I figured I could get in because
yeah,
you go to a state like Nebraska with no trees, and the Wisconsinite in me is like, I need to get up there.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
But was able to set up there, and yeah, first night shot a 3.5-year-old 10-pointer out of that corner.
Dude, awesome. Awesome. And so talk to me a little bit about, so I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Nebraska has changed their regulations over the past handful of years because I'm almost positive you could get a deer tag over the counter for a non-resident and just show up, grab and you could hunt mule deer or whitetails with that. Has that changed recently to where it's species specific now?
Yeah, I don't remember what year it changed. It's been a few years now since they went
Yeah,
away from everybody getting an either species tag. Um, so now they give out a few either species tags, and then everybody else is getting whitetail tags, and they have a draw system set up now.
yeah,
Um, it's still essentially over the counter. The draw system, I mean, I think it's $7 to do an application,
yeah,
and if you the first year they did it, and we didn't draw a tag, and we're freaking out like, "Oh my god, what are we gonna do for our western hunt this year?"
yeah.
And it turns out there were 1,500 leftover tags for the area we were hunting anyways, so we just essentially had over the counter tags.
Yeah. And so it was like North Dakota used to be where all you had to do was apply and for that point it was South Dakota. I don't know what I said it. South Dakota, and you're guaranteed a tag. I mean, as long as you applied, you're getting a tag. They weren't turning away people, but now they've reduced numbers to non-residents and there's people having to get their preference points now in order to hunt some of those states. So with that said, did you guys hunt mule deer like only, and then now because of the rules and regulations have switched to whitetails?
For the most part, I mean, the allure of going to Nebraska when we started was that we could hunt for mule deer. You know,
Hmm.
it's the closest state that we can go to and have a chance at them.
Hmm.
But like you were saying, there's not a lot. They're hard to find, and
Yep.
we would get one or two chances or opportunities each year, but that was it.
Yeah.
We're now focusing more on whitetails. We have a lot more opportunities, and you see a lot more critters.
Yeah. Are you going as deep because you're focusing on whitetails? Are you going as deep into Nebraska, or are you staying closer?
We're doing like central Nebraska. I mean, there's
Gotcha.
still some mule deer around,
Yeah.
but because the tags are so hard to get for mule deer, it's a little bit easier just to focus on those. And then
Yeah.
with the archery permits there, they actually only give out 5,000 archery permits for the entire state for non-resident.
For non-residents. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So there's way less pressure for the archery season, which was fun to see.
Yeah, I believe that, dude. Anytime, and more states are going to that. More states are reducing tags for non-residents, and I think what it's going to do is, I mean, let's not kid ourselves. It sucks, but it's going to make the hunting better. You ask any hunter, would you prefer a tag every year, or would you prefer a shit ton of hunting pressure? Right, like exactly what Colorado did. Right, every time I talk to someone on this podcast or on the Nine Finger Chronicles podcast about Colorado and elk hunting, it's dude, pressure. Oh, dude, I saw so many hunters, so many hunters, so many hunters. Reduction. You're not hunting every year, but people are like, dude, the hunting was more fun. It was better. I liked it more. I'm okay with missing a year or two in order to go have a better hunt in 3 years as opposed to every year. So, I think a lot of states are going to start doing, the trend is that already, but you know, a lot of states are going to be following suit to that too. So, and I love Nebraska, man. I have some family that lives in central Nebraska, cattle farming family, and I had the opportunity once to go stay at their house and hunt every morning out of that, and come back when it got hot or it started raining. And dude, I had a blast out there. It was all private, and they owned a ton of ground, and I missed an antelope, and I saw some good whitetail bucks. Not a lot of mule deer, but dude, I had an absolute blast hunting Nebraska, dude.
Yeah, I mean, we love it. We've got buddies that live out there,
Yeah,
and we got a buddy that lives like 45 minutes from where we hunt. So it makes life a little bit easier for the trip because we camp out there.
yeah,
Being able to go over to our buddy's house and shower and
mhm,
get dinner,
yep,
midweek or like
yep.
this past year. I mean, I shot that buck on day one of a 10-day hunt, so I was able to go over there and get my deer in the freezer and get everything broken down. So it was logistically, it made life a little bit easier for me.
No, absolutely, absolutely, and that's a hunt you guys do every year.
Yep, yep,
Yep.
and it's gone. I mean, it's trended a little bit differently these past few years. We have a section that we really, really like to hunt that we see a ton of deer in now relative to what we used to. So
Yeah,
normally we're going to kill our bucks on day one or two of the season, and
yeah.
now we bring a canoe and all of our duck stuff, and so I mean we get our deer, and then we just focus on duck hunting for the rest of the week. So it
Awesome,
makes it
dude.
a really cool trip that way.
Yeah, hell yeah. Talk to me a little bit about, because I have my own experience or my own opinions about Western whitetails. And a lot of people, especially if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably not focused on whitetail hunting, right? You're going west to hunt elk, antelope, or mule deer, top three, right? Those are probably the top three, maybe some bear hunters out there. But um, Western whitetails, dude, they are a very unique creature compared to the Midwest. What have you seen from deer behavior of a Western whitetail?
I mean, they're interesting, on how they use the landscape relative to what they do in the Midwest states. Because we think of deer on a 40 or an 80 or 100 acre pieces. They bed right here they feed right here. They have their water source. Where out west, I mean, they're using such vast amounts of land every day. I mean, you're
Yeah.
watching these deer cruise for miles, and that could just be because we can actually see them out there. You know,
Right.
they might be doing the same thing at home, but you can't tell.
Yeah.
We're out there, I mean, you're watching them go over these hills and, you know, go 3, 4, 5 miles between bedding areas. So, out there, it just seems like you just need to be able to see.
Yeah.
Like, the more you can see, the better chances you have out there.
Yeah.
But, you know, I've put myself in the position plenty of times throughout the years where I get up high to see, and it's like, "Oh, well, they're exactly where I thought they were gonna be in that little
Yeah.
thicket down here, and now I'm 600 yards away and 200 feet above them."
Yeah.
And you gotta try and scurry down this hill and get in position, and by the time you get there, your heart rate is at 190 and you're trying to make a shot.
Yeah. And I thought, you know, any weapon, dude, I just like spotting and stalking out there, bedded mule deer, or when I go to South Dakota and I'm trying to uh, shoot a mule deer out there. Holy shit, dude, my heart rate is jumping through my chest, and I'm trying to hold myself together while I see antler tips, or I can see their back, and I'm trying to just get over the hill, balance in a weird way, and have my bow at full draw. And yeah, I 100% get that. So, one thing I've noticed about Western whitetails is they do not give you a second chance, like let's say a Midwestern whitetail would. They see you, gone. Like they're gone, and they run until you can't even see them anymore, like until your eyes stop working. And a mule deer may bound off a little bit, look back a couple times. Midwestern whitetail, sometimes they'll even let you drive right by them in a truck, but that's not the case for the whitetails that I've seen out west.
No, that's exactly the same as what I've seen, yeah, that
Yeah.
once they're spooked, they are gone, gone.
Gone. Gone forever. You never see them again. You might see them in a different state, but they're gone. That's how far they're running. Okay. And it sounds like you've had some fun. You've had some success with that rifle hunt throughout the years. You said about a decade ago, you were a young whippersnapper and you said, "Hey, I want to go to Montana on an elk hunt." Talk to
Mhm.
me a little bit about that hunt specifically and why all of a sudden this, like, dude, I want to go to Montana on an elk hunt.
Yeah, I mean, I'd always like the idea of elk hunting. You know, you watch the videos and the YouTube stuff, and you're like,
Mm.
God, it looks unbelievable out there, just the scenery and going after these monstrous animals. And I was a charter boat captain at the time, and one of my customers actually invited me to go with him. He had
Oh,
been going to
nice.
this lodge forever. So it was a lodge based hunt, but it was all on public ground. Um, and the guy I went with, I mean, he was, God, I think he was like 73 or 74 at the time, and so me being 25, I'm like, "I'll be just fine out in the mountains with
Yep.
this guy, like, it won't be an
Yeah.
issue." But I was a charter captain, I smoked all day, and I got out there, and it just beat the tar out of me.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
I'm trying to follow a senior citizen through the mountains, and I can't keep up, and I'm like, "Oh god, this is bad." Uh, and, you
That's
know, at the
hilarious.
time, it just I didn't have the money. I probably shouldn't have done the hunt in the first place, but with Montana, you know, the tag was, you know, 800 bucks or whatever it is for a bull
Yeah.
tag out there, and the combo tag was like 1,100, and I was too poor to be like, I can spend the extra 300 bucks.
Yeah.
And of course, I mean, we got into mule deer every day. I mean, I could have shot mule deer bucks every single day of that trip.
Yeah.
And so that was a big reminder in my mind, like, now when we go out west, it's like you get tags for whatever you can possibly get because you never
Yeah.
know when you're gonna run into a good opportunity.
Yeah. That's a fact. That's a fact. Um, what, was this another rifle tag hunt out there?
Nope,
No,
nope, this
archery
was
tag.
archery hunting.
Okay,
Yep.
archery. And so did you have, I mean, it was out of a lodge, so you didn't need like a tent or any like water purification system or anything like that. Was this essentially a guided hunt, or did you just stay at the lodge and then they let you go wherever you wanted to?
Yeah, no, we just stayed at the lodge and just went wherever we felt like that day.
Oh,
But, you know, they made you the food, and so,
mhm.
yeah, it was an easy introductory into Western hunting because you didn't need all of the gear and all the
Yeah.
preparation. You just drove 27 hours and got there, and it's like, all right, well, now we're in the mountains. Let's go find some elk.
Exactly. And once you got there, did you find some elk?
It took a few days. We did get into the elk. Like the fourth day out there, we had some snow that came in, and we were able to spot some up high.
Yeah.
It was a 4-hour hike to get up to where they were at. And did have a spike bull that came into 9 yards. I mean, he almost
Yeah.
ran me over.
Yeah.
But it was in an area where it had to be a branch antlered bull to be illegal.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was the most exciting thing that had ever happened to me. You're sitting there, you're calling, and then all of a sudden you just see an antler tip coming through, down the mountain, just crashing through, and you're like, "Holy crap, it's gonna work!
Yeah.
Like this is gonna happen." And it comes down, and you're like, "Oh God, it's a spike." Like,
Yeah.
never.
What elevation were you hunting at, if you can remember that?
I want to say that we were at about 8,000 feet
8,000
for that
feet.
hunt.
So still high enough to where you're feeling the impacts of elevation.
Yep, yep.
Yep.
And like I said, just not being used to it, not having any preparation prior to going out there, and I live at 750 feet,
Right.
so yeah, you get out there and it hits you pretty hard. But that was really the only day that we got into elk. The guy I was with was pretty shot by that point, honestly. So was I. So trying to do another 4-hour hike the next morning to get back up into him was kind of out of the cards for us.
Yeah. Yeah. And so what was the end result of that hunt? Was it just like cool experience type of
Yep, it was like,
takeaway?
"This is neat. I need to prepare more. I
Yeah.
I need to get my body where it needs to be, and if I ever wanna try to do the real Western hunting."
Yeah. Yeah. I feel that. Okay. So fast forward 10 years, you got the bug again to go out west. What kicked this one off? This because where did you go? Where did you decide to go to?
I went out to Utah.
Utah. Okay, tell us why Utah. Why 10 years later going on another hunt, and why not hunting elk or another western? Hunting elk in between that 10 years.
I just didn't have the funds to do it. These trips can be expensive, and wanting to do more of the DIY stuff,
Mm-hmm.
you need so much more gear and so much more preparation to get out there.
Yeah.
And I went with like a drop camp outfitter this year,
Okay.
and so that made
What is
some
a
of it a
drop
little bit
camp
easier.
outfitter?
So, like, they have the big, tent set up and, like, a big base camp.
Yep.
So that was nice. We ended up spike camping for the majority of it, but it was nice
Mm-hmm.
to have a base camp that you could go back to at least if you
Yeah.
needed to.
Okay.
Honestly, I brought it up to my wife, and then we were trying to draw a different tag, didn't draw it, and then my wife was like, "Well, why don't you go on that Utah hunt that you talked about, 6 months ago?" And when she said that, I said, "Okay." Like, if your wife tells you to go on the elk hunt, you go on the elk hunt.
Right. Right. What was the tag allocation process like for Utah?
So, I hunted on a spike cow tag. Um,
Okay.
Most of Utah is pretty tough to draw if you want, like, their trophy bull units.
Right.
Non-residents just aren't getting those tags, but they're pretty liberal with your spike and cow tags. So,
Mm-hmm.
I just wanna shoot an elk. I don't care big, small, in between. Like, I just want the experience of being out in the mountains and getting into elk. So it was a great opportunity, and the tags weren't that expensive. I think, again, they were about $800 for that tag.
For that tag, and it was good for a spike bull or a cow.
Yep.
All
Yep.
right.
So basically, yeah. So the majority of the elk on the mountain, you could shoot with it.
Okay, cool. All right. And so, you learned your lesson last time. You were not physically prepared for that hunt. Talk to me a little bit about how you prepared for this hunt.
A billion miles of rucking.
Okay. I like
Like
that.
it, when yeah, I have a 2-year-old,
Yeah.
so I would throw him in the backpack, little kid carrying
Yeah.
backpack, and we would go hike around at home. And when I didn't have him, then I would just throw 50 pounds of sand in the bag and do that. And I think I did 175 miles last summer,
Oh, really?
with weight on my back.
Yeah.
And then that I was running quite a bit. I did a half marathon this spring,
Yeah.
so just trying to get everything dialed in. And honestly, I've felt great in the mountains this year.
Awesome. Were you still chain smoking at that point?
No,
No.
no,
Okay.
I quit that. I think it was my second year in Nebraska I stopped smoking because
Yeah.
even in Nebraska, I was getting my butt kicked.
Yeah.
And my hunting partner weighs 100 pounds more than me, and he
Yeah.
was kicking my butt. And I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, well, maybe I should probably stop this
Yeah.
soon.
Maybe it's these SIGs are not the best idea. I get it. Okay.
Yep, yep. And when you look at yourself and you're 27 years old and you can't do the stuff that you want,
Yeah.
it's a pretty eye opening experience. Like, okay, like this is going to cause problems throughout my life, and
Yeah.
so that was
Yeah.
time to quit that.
I will say this though. I am simply amazed by the way that some people treat their bodies with food or cigarettes or alcohol, and they live till they're 90 years old and there's no problems, right? It's just like, and then you got people who's like, oh, well, I got lung cancer because I smoked for 10 years or whatever the case is. And so I don't know why I'm bringing this up. It's just like, I know a couple of some guys I know, their dads are in their late 70s, early 80s, and they just are still smoking a pack of cigarettes a day. They still drink beer, like every night. And I'm just blown away because I can't do that. I can't even do that shit today at 45, and they're doing it at, in their late 70s. So it's,
Yeah.
it's probably still better to not do those things. But, okay. You rucked tons of miles. I have also found that the best thing to do is simulate what you're going to be doing up in the mountains, and that's walking up and down big hills or side hilling. And that's what I did. When I had my best years in Colorado, when I was the most physically fit, I was putting anywhere between 45 to 75, 80 pounds on my pack and just hiking on the trails in these state parks that were by my house. And that gave me the best results, straight up. Not any lifting program, not any type of like full body workouts, just shooting my bow, eating healthy, and rucking a million miles.
Yep, yep, same. Because I live up by the Kettle Moraines in Wisconsin. I mean, it's the hilliest stuff that we have basically
Yeah.
in our area, and so yeah, I mean, you just pound miles going up and down these hills, and I
Mhm.
mean, it simulates exactly what we're trying to do out west, except you're 8,000 feet below it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. All right. So let's talk a little bit about the tag then was because it was for a spike bull or a cow, it was easy to get. Did you go through the outfitter to get it, or did you have to pick it up yourself?
I had to go through it myself,
Okay.
um,
All right.
but it was a simple process to
Okay.
to get the tag. I might go out there again this year. I haven't decided. I applied for a antelope tag in Wyoming. So if I don't draw that, we'll find out in I think 2 weeks on that. But if
Gotcha.
I don't draw that, then I'll probably end up in Utah again. Like I said, it was a fun hunt. It's early in the year, so we were there the last week of August.
Oh, wow. Was it hot?
Um, yeah, so their archery season actually starts, I believe, August 15th
Mm-hmm.
for elk,
Yeah.
and it runs through the first week of September. Then it closes, so you don't really get a true rut hunt in Utah
Really?
with an archery tag.
Really? Do they do a
Hmm.
muzzleloader season in that
They
time
have a
frame?
muzzleloader. They have a relatively early rifle season.
Okay. That's interesting.
Hmm.
In most other states, their rifle seasons don't start until, man, like late September or even early October.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. And so, so the tag was $800-ish. What was the outfitter fee for getting you and your gear up to this? And then did you go with a guide every
Nope.
day?
Nope.
No. Okay.
So it was an interesting spot. I had heard about it on a different podcast. I think he was on Remy's podcast at one point. So they did like an elk school
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing where they have some guides, and for the first couple of days you're out glassing with guides and going through different scenarios. It's a great program for people who have never elk hunted or have
Right.
never done any of this stuff.
Mhm.
And then the last half of the week, the last 4 days, you're out on your own to kind of do whatever you want or
Yeah.
see whatever you want.
Okay.
And so I think it was like the third day I had glassed some elk up that were, I don't know, 10 miles away probably,
Yeah.
um, in a spot that was misery to try and get to. But luckily, the guys that were in my tent with me at the camp, we had all brought stuff to spike camp out.
Yeah.
So glassed those elk up, found them, figured out a route up there, and then for the last 4 days, we just went up, camp on our back, and camp for the last 3 nights of the trip.
Okay. So this was not just an outfitted hunt. This was like an education type thing as well. Was this like sponsored through anybody, or was this just what this outfitter did?
It's just what this outfitter does. So it's process-based hunter.
Hmm.
Um, and it was actually kind of cool when we first got there. The first guy that I heard, I recognized his voice, and I'm like, "How do I know someone here?"
Hmm.
Turns out Ron Spomer was one of the guides.
And who's he?
So he's been an outdoor writer kind of forever. He
Oh,
does a
okay.
lot of stuff on Western big game.
Okay.
He talks a lot about rifle hunting.
Yep.
If you would see a picture of him, you'd be like, "Oh, that's Ron."
Okay, I
So
gotcha.
it was cool to see him, but yeah, that's kind of their thing where it's getting people from you know, it when you go, you're at zero. It's trying to get you to like that year 3 or 4 experience within
Hmm.
1 year.
Yeah. Yeah. That'd be nice. The learning curves out west suck, dude. Like,
They're
especially,
terrible.
yeah. My first elk hunt was me just looking at elk at like 5 miles away, uh, where if I even wanted to get a shot at them, I had to drop down or go up like 800 feet, drop down 1,000 feet, and then go back up another 1,000 feet. And right now, there's probably some guy out west going, "That's nothing, dude." Right?
Yeah,
That's
that's just
nothing.
what we do here.
Yeah, exactly. But I was wearing steel-toed work boots my first elk hunt, and I was not in shape, and I everything sucked about it. Everything sucked about it, and so I had to prepare, kind of like you, for those next trips that I took. But um, so where were these other guys from? Was this a trip that you went out there with other people with, or was this solo and then you just met up with these dudes there?
Yep, it was just solo. I didn't have anybody else that could take the time off or had the ability to do an elk hunt, so I just signed up for myself. I flew out to Utah,
Yeah,
rented a Jeep Gladiator, and drove out. And
nice, cool, cool.
yeah, it
And,
it
and
it
so
was
what?
an interesting way of doing things. I will say that.
Yeah. And so what happened in those last, 3 days? Did you even get close to elk at all
Yep.
on these trips?
Yeah, so the first night we got up there, just got camp set up. We actually had a black bear walk through camp while we were setting it up.
Oh,
So that
nice.
was kind of fun. Bear season wasn't open yet. It opened September 1st last year, so
Yeah.
we didn't have a bear tag. But that's also when I realized I was the dumbest person in camp because what we all pack up there and the bear walks through, and I knocked an arrow immediately, and the other two guys I was with both drew their sidearms, and I'm like. Right.
Yeah.
That's why we brought these actually.
I'm going to
The
just shoot this bear. If he attacks me, I'm going to shoot him with my bow. Guys, watch
Yep,
out. Yeah.
yep, and I'm like, "Oh, right, I brought a 10 mil for a reason."
Yeah. Right.
But no,
So bear,
the second day we had found some elk, so we split up, and they were down in the bottom of this valley. They were actually feeding out on the private, by bedding up in the public land, so we'd seen them in the private in the morning, and then went in the afternoon. And so I went over the next ridge and was going to try and cut them off before they got back to that public. The
yeah.
other two guys went down the other drainage so that if I spooked them, they would go up towards them. If they spooked them, they'd go down towards me.
Yeah.
Seemed like an awesome plan. But I got about halfway to the pinch point that I wanted to be in, got up on top of the ridge, and I glassed down, and the elk were right underneath me.
Yeah.
When I ranged him, it said 93 yards, but I was, 150 feet above him.
Yep.
So it's like, well, I'm just going to keep going down into this bottom, got down to the bottom, and they had gotten spooked from somebody else, and they just shot right back up the drainage that they were in.
Yeah.
So that was as close as we got to them that day. And
Okay.
then next day we had found some more and just didn't get a shot. One of the guys I was with got to about 50 yards, but it took off and just never had a good opportunity on it.
Yeah. How were you getting busted? Were they
I don't
seeing
know.
you? Were they smelling you? Were they hearing you?
I think the first night they heard us,
Yeah.
just because I mean it's where we were was super, super, super steep and rocky. I don't know if you've ever been in Utah, but the pictures are exactly what it's like. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just broken up shale and rock cliffs everywhere.
Yeah.
So it's super noisy trying to get down these drainages. So I
Okay.
think they were hearing us, and then the other ones, I'm pretty sure they smelled me and one of the other guys,
Mhm.
and then just bolted out past the third guy I was with.
Gotcha. Gotcha. And was that kind of like the big hurdle was getting with this archery tag, getting within shooting range of them in this environment?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty open where we were hunting,
Mhm.
and anywhere that it wasn't pretty open was just blowdown after blowdown.
Yeah.
So, yeah, trying to get in on them was brutal. I mean, if we were out there with a rifle tag, we would have all shot elk
Yeah.
pretty easily.
Gotcha.
But yeah, just trying to trick their nose doesn't work,
Mhm.
as we all know.
Yeah. What about the time of year? So you said you went out, was it the last week in August or the
Yep,
third week in
last
August?
week of August.
Okay. And so what were
And
they doing? Were they even bugling at all? Were they talking to each other? Were they
No, I
just
heard
dead quiet?
one bugle, the entire time I was out there. So it was all glassing, just trying to find them that
Mhm.
way. So you're, glassing the big openings and just trying to locate them.
Were you
But
guys
yeah, once
trying to
they got
call them at
in,
all?
hmm?
Were you guys trying to call them at all?
Just cow calling.
Yeah.
I threw a few bugles out in the mornings just to see if I could strike something up, but
Yeah.
throughout the day it was just cow calls once we had located something and trying to get in on them that way. But
Yeah.
it was an interesting week for Utah, because when you think about hunting arid deserts, you don't
Mhm.
think that it's gonna rain 6 of the 7 days that you're there,
Oh boy.
but that's exactly what ended up happening to us. So the first day, we actually couldn't get to our camp because there was a mudslide that had gone through and covered the road. So generally you're out there and you're focusing on water holes,
Yeah.
but when it's raining all day every day, they just weren't going to water, so we were having to do a lot more glassing, a lot more hiking, a lot more looking.
Yeah. How much of that time then, because of the rain, was spent in the tent or back at camp because it was just they're probably bedded down and the only thing you're going to do out there is get soaked?
Yeah, I mean the first few days when we were in the base camp still, a lot of it was spent at base camp, just
Mhm.
going over maps and, talking about different scenarios. But when we spike camped, it doesn't matter. We're already wet. Like
Yeah.
there was no way to dry off. I mean, my spike camp was just a sleeping pad and an argali tarp.
Yeah.
Like that's all I brought up on the mountain. I didn't want to overload myself with extra stuff. And the second I blew up my pad, laid it down, laid on it, it popped. Um, so I spent three nights just laying on the ground in just pure misery, soaking wet, and
Oh,
sleeping
love
on
it.
rocks.
Holy
Yeah,
shit,
like this
that
is
would
great.
suck, dude.
Yeah, it was brutal.
So your sleeping bag was wet?
Sleeping bag was wet. All your clothes are wet.
And you just toughed it out?
I'm not walking back to the truck. Where we were hunting, we parked at 7,200 feet,
Yeah.
and where we camped was 9,000.
Okay.
So
So
like,
so then what did you do? Like, during the day, unzip your sleeping bag and hang it up to try to get it to dry, and then it didn't dry because it rained all the time, so you just came back to a wet sleeping bag?
yep, yep.
Oh, buddy.
Luckily, it's Utah. I mean, it was 60 at night,
Okay.
so you weren't freezing to death. But yeah, I mean, it was uncomfortable the entire time. But looking back on it, I mean, I had a great trip.
Yeah. I don't know, dude. I'm kind of a sissy when it comes to that stuff. Like getting wet, like I'm okay if it's like a day, but when it comes to nighttime and being wet all night and I know that there was a little bit of an unforeseen circumstance there with the sleeping pad, but My first elk hunting trip to Idaho was my rain, or I borrowed a tent from a buddy, and that tent was not waterproofed. Something happened to it. I'm not sure. And I woke up in the middle of the night with about this much water. I'm going to say half-inch of water in the bottom of my tent. And so luckily I was on a sleeping pad that kept most of my stuff up, but I had to go to the guy that I was with and just be like, dude, can I get into your tent just for tonight? Like, and he was okay with it because he had some extra room. And but then I had to go back down the mountain the next day to go buy a tent, um, a very overpriced tent, in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. And dude, it was absolutely horrible. It was a very bad experience. So, but
Yeah,
I also
yeah, and
I learned a lot.
yeah, you learn those lessons. I think one of the biggest takeaways that I had from spiking for a few days is, oh my god, do I overpack for these trips?
Hmm.
You bring
Yeah.
so much stuff. You got 5 pairs of pants and,
Yep.
30 different layers with you and
Hmm.
all this crap, and it's like then you go up the mountain and you have a shirt and your puffies and a pair of pants, and
Yep.
that's literally all you really need.
Yeah. But that's the crazy part, dude, is you don't know. Because when I was hunting in Colorado, I'll use two examples. Colorado. I hunted in Colorado for it was like 6 days. The first 2 days when we were up there was 85 degrees at 11,000 feet. Hot as shit, like, and then it dropped down to like 25 degrees in a matter of 40 minutes. It started to snow and all of this crazy shit and rain heavy. And then the temperature dropped for the next handful of days down into the 40s. So it was a 40-degree temperature swing. And I went from just wearing a t-shirt all day to even in the middle of or in the mornings walking up. And I wish I would have packed more clothes for the following couple days when it was 40 degrees. Because when we stopped to glass or stopped to do a calling sequence, dude, I needed my puffies and I needed all that stuff. And we did get wet and it did make me shiver a lot. And the other example was South Dakota. I'm literally watching this cold front move in, and I'm going, okay, the deer are going to be moving when this cold front comes in. And it was probably 80 degrees. We're sitting on a knob glassing the last couple hours, like the last hour of light. Storm comes in, 30 degrees, starts snowing, and we're like, dude, how are we going to get out of here? Right? Because it was mud road, starts to rain, and I'm starting to shiver because I'm just wearing a long sleeve t-shirt. And so overpacking sucks until you actually need some of that additional gear for the I don't know how you would say this, the worst possible outcomes. Like, hey, maybe I won't take as much water this year. And then guess what? It's 90 degrees outside and you wish you had more water. Maybe I won't pack this extra base layer until you need that extra base layer. You know what I mean? And so there is an element of trying to tough it out that people probably don't understand. I
Yeah,
mean, it's
and I mean,
gonna
we
happen.
we got lucky, honestly, that it rained because none of us packed enough water.
Yeah.
Like, we didn't anticipate how tough the hike was gonna be to get up there, and if it wasn't for it raining and collecting rainwater off the
Hmm.
tents, like, we would have been dead by day 3.
Yeah, dude, that's crazy. You were collecting rainwater off the tents.
Yep.
Efficient. I like it. I like it.
It's efficient, you don't have to worry about, using a Steri pen or
Yeah.
filtering it, like, it's just coming straight off the tent, right into an Nalgene, and it just kept going, but,
Good to go.
you know,
Love
that
it.
that was another thing that I didn't anticipate was, I had brought freeze dry with me for all
Mhm.
my meals, and, like, but now I gotta use all my water to cook, where
Yep.
the other guys with me, they had, like, the Spam singles and,
Hmm.
nuts and jerky and everything with them.
Yep.
And I'm like, boy, I wish that I didn't have to use an entire Nalgene of water that I carried up here just to try and eat dinner every night.
Yeah. Yeah. I did that too. When I did a spike camp, we had to go get water every day. And when I was in South Dakota, I ran out of water, and then my pump my water filter pump broke, and I had to basically just dip water into this mud hole, dip my Nalgene bottle into this mud hole to get water because it was so dry. And instead of pumping it, I just used those pills that
Mm-hmm.
dissolve. And 45 minutes, you have to wait 45 minutes before you can drink it. And dude, that water tasted like shit. I mean, it was gritty from all the sand that was in it. And but I needed something to cook my food at night because I didn't, I brought my good water with me every day to drink, but then the shitty water that I got from there was what I boiled to cook with at night. So
Yeah, you're passing it through a sock to try and get the grit out.
boy, this water tastes like feet, dude.
Yeah, yeah, this is absolutely horrible.
What was the biggest takeaway from this elk hunt that you went on? And were you successful at all? Did you even get a shot opportunity?
No
No.
shot opportunities. I think my biggest takeaway overall is that I don't know how to e-scout for elk.
Okay.
Yeah, because leading up to the hunt, we probably had 2 months, and I mean, I dropped 100 waypoints on Onyx for stuff that looked good. And I mean, I don't think that I dropped a waypoint within 5 miles of where where we saw
Right.
anything. Is for me at home at least, we're looking for such micro parts of these areas that we're hunting. 5 oak trees can be the best thing in a
Yep.
200 acre or 1,000 acre area, where out there, like, I was putting waypoints on these little feeding areas or these little benches, and it's like, oh well, 2 elk will eat all the grass in that feeding area in one day and not be there the rest of the year.
Yeah,
Where it's like
man.
you actually need to look for big giant areas, and like understanding that, yeah, that elk will walk 5 miles if they want to that day in the mountains.
Yeah.
Or like it was eye-opening for how I need to start looking at the landscape out there.
Yeah, man, that scouting is so difficult out west because, I mean, are there cattle there? Has it been burnt? Is the satellite imagery up to date? How many people are going to be there? Um, so many things. Is it dry? How much snow did they have in the winter? Is it going to be wet in these creeks? Are these creeks dry? Like all these things matter out west. And because you're not there or I'm not there, then we come in severely handicapped because everything at that point has to be done on you know, in the moment, and preparing for it is very difficult.
Yeah, you feel so prepared when you've scoured a map
Yep.
forever, and like you have all these different plans and preconceived notions of like
Yep.
how the hunt's gonna go, and you get there and you're like, throw everything out the window.
Yep.
Like, I just need to go somewhere high and look around.
Exactly. Exactly. Yep. Absolutely. Well, I tell you what, dude, has this fired you up for more elk hunts? Or like, is this something you're going to try to do every year now or every other year? What's the case?
I would like to say every year. It'll probably be every other year.
Yeah.
Right now, I think me and a buddy are planning on Montana next year. I've got
Outfitter
a bunch.
again?
Nope,
Nope.
that'll just be a DIY. I don't plan on doing any more outfitters,
Hmm.
unless I draw crazy tags in like Wyoming where you need to have an outfitter if you want to hunt wilderness and stuff like
Yep.
that. So I might end up doing some stuff like that out there, but I have all the gear now to be able to do it myself.
Hmm.
So I would like to do it that way.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've got points all over the West now, so if I can swing it, it'll be an every year thing.
Yeah. Gotcha. Gotcha. Well, my friend, you need to sell a lot more roofs to make this little obsession of ours. Dude, because I have a ton of points for Wyoming, but I also know how much it's going to cost to
Hmm.
go out there. Am I going to use an outfitter? Am I going to, uh, do a DIY public deal? How many days am I going to stay out there? And all that every day equals dollars out there, and time and things like that. So, um, I got to make sure that all things are good here at home. And then also, I got to make sure that I have enough money to, did I make enough money this year to do that? So, all things that need to be thought about when we do that. So, I really appreciate you taking time out of your day, man. Thank you very much for sharing your insight and your stories, your Western hunting stories. And good luck this upcoming season with whatever it is you do. I hope you slay and you run into something big, dude.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. It was nice to talk to you.